This video includes spoilers for every song on the new album. If you want to wait to hear the songs until the album comes out proper, then get off this video. You have been warned. Humanz, the new album by Gorillaz, is coming out on the 28th of April, just a few days from now. However, for those of us who were impatient, the band recently hosted a worldwide event throughout the weekend titled the Humanz House Party. During this event, people could gather at specific spots all around the world and listen to the album in its entirety. I didn't do this because the nearest spot was too far away. Instead, I grabbed one of my Gorillaz shirts, my headset, and my phone, and sat down with a cup of coffee in my backyard. I was now ready to listen to the album in its entirety. Yes, the album has been leaked, and I listened to it a few days in advance, but I've already pre-ordered the album for my collection, so it shouldn't be a problem, right? While listening, I decided to take notes of my first impressions of every song, so I could talk about the songs with you all today. What I'm thinking is that I will listen to the album once now, give my first impressions, and when the album comes out proper, I'll give it a few more listens, and then do an in-depth review. Come back to my channel later to see that. I'm ready to go, so let's go. Track by track, impression by impression. Here goes nothing. The album starts off with a creepy, short, and effective intro that sets the tone immediately. It's a scary world we live in. The album's narrator, Ben Mendelsohn, who played Orson Krennic in Rogue One, makes his first appearance here. The intro leads well into the next song. I know I said that Ascension was my least favorite out of the first 4 songs that were unveiled from the album, not counting Hallelujah Money, but now I stand corrected. This song is now my second favorite out of the first 4. It's catchy as hell and is gonna be sick at concerts. Vince's flow is tasty as hell, and a funny coincidence that happened while listening to the song was that it actually started hailing during it. The sky was literally falling, dude. Strobelite starts off and is already extremely funky. It's a good dance tune right from the get-go, and I assume it's gonna be a fan favorite. While listening to it, I got a strong 80s disco vibe from it, and the song is very pop-friendly. I didn't notice Damon, or rather 2D, anywhere in the song though. Maybe he provided backing vocals or something, but I couldn't tell. It was a solid song that was great from first listen. All my life. This is my favorite out of the first 4 songs that were released. The bass in the song sounds so good, and I also love the drums. It really gives it a banger beat. I can't wait to hear this song live, or crank up my speakers to make the whole house shake. I'm not gonna be popular with the neighbors. Popcancer's vocals have proven to me that autotune can work sometimes, because in this case, it really enhanced the sound. Saturnz Barz is currently one of my favorite tracks from the album. De La Soul and Gorillaz are back, baby. The hip-hop trio have been with the band since Demon days, and it feels great to have them with us again. This time on Momentz, with a Z, because that's cools. The intro of the song instantly reminded me of the outro to Superfast Jellyfish, the song that featured De La Soul on Gorillaz' 3rd album, Plastic Beach. Listen, I can't be the only one that hears the similarities, right? The beat in the song immediately struck me as being very experimental, but the rapping has a good flow to it and it works. I also really appreciate the tempo change during the middle of the song. It was very unexpected. And is that Noodle singing? It might be. That's awesome! After a while, the beat really gets infectious, and I like how out there it is. It's very different, and it's a pretty good tune. This interlude is gonna make the crowd go wild at concerts, I can feel it. Ooh boy, I was so excited to hear this song ever since I heard Danny Brown was gonna be on it. I've been listening to Atrocity Exhibition a lot lately, and I need more Danny in my life. The song starts with smooth vocals by Kelela that I really enjoy, but I really sat in anticipation and waited for Danny to step into the spotlight and steal the show. Guess what? I loved him since bar number 1, damn it. His delivery is so spot on, and I love how insane he sounds. It's classic Danny. The melody of the song has a bit of a downbeaten and sorrowful vibe to it, especially during Gorillaz' vocals. It's another very bright spot on the album. First off on this track, Grace Jones sounds like a supervillain with that evil laugh. It's a very effective way of building a threatening atmosphere. We finally get some more 2D on here, and his delivery sounds amazing in tandem with the schizophrenic beat. 2D sounds like he's really panicking and that he's really in the grasp of the villain in the song. It provides an interesting struggle and makes the song one hell of a ride. Very good first impression. This song is awesome. Whee! Along comes Andromeda, another club-friendly song that was also one of the first to be revealed from the album. What I realized at this point was that a lot of the songs and melodies so far have been very party/disco influenced, and I really got some retro vibes from a lot of them. A lot of drum machine beats and a lot of funk. That's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just something I noticed. My thoughts on this song hasn't really changed since my first impressions of it. It's a good, catchy song that I love listening to. I also like how experimental some of the sounds are. It's not usually what you hear on the radio, and I like it.
Busted and Blue.
Busted and Blue is hands down one of my new favorite Gorillaz songs of all time. It's just jaw-droppingly beautiful. It's quiet, reflective, somber, and just what I wanted out of at least one of the tracks on this album. It had some real Empire Ants or El Manana vibes to it, which I adored. Funnily enough, this song is the only one on the album not to feature a collaborator, which I consider a good thing. I'm happy 2D gets to take center stage here and deliver some really sweet sounding lyrics. They feel grounded, real, and quite intimate. The instrumental makes me feel like I'm drifting through space, and the whole song gives me major flashbacks to Plastic Beach. It almost feels as though this song could have fit on that album as well. I loved this one.
Talk to me.
This interlude brings you back to reality after the very dreamy Busted and Blue. I'm getting a radio station or DJ feel from the narrator, and it really reminds me of the interview with Damon and Jamie from Q Magazine about how they see the album as kind of a party record about the world going nuts or something of that sort. Could the album be about a party before the end of the world? This song was very short, going just over 2 minutes, and that ultimately made this song rather forgettable, I'm afraid. Anthony Hamilton's vocals are grand and pretty alright, but that's about it. I can't recall the melody, or the hook, or anything. The song was too short to leave an impression on me, and I'm gonna have to listen to it again. But for now, it's one of the weaker entries in my own humble opinion. Let Me Out is so fucking good. The beat is dark, scary, and delicious at the same time. The lyrics, at least during Pusha T's sections, are blatantly political, and I have no problem whatsoever with Gorillaz getting political. After all, 2 of their albums were overtly political if you paid attention. However, if you look at, say, the rap in Dirty Harry, there are obvious references to Bush and the wars that were going on at the time, but the rap didn't feel the need to blatantly spell out Bush's name, but simply had to allude to and reference him to make the listener read in between the lines. I felt as though this made the song somewhat timeless. In Let Me Out, however, Pusha T makes explicit mention of Obama and Trump, and while it is censored, it's not hard to figure out what he's saying at all. I would have much preferred if they could have made the lyrics in that section a little more ambiguous and vague instead of spelling out the names of who he's talking about. It kinda brings me out of the track, to be honest, but that's just a little thing that bothers me about an otherwise great song. I guess you could also make the argument that because it's censored, it does become timeless, because you can apply pretty much any sort of leader to that position where they censored it, but I don't know, it brings me out of the song in my opinion. Sorry for getting sidetracked. The lyrics themselves are heavy, apocalyptic, grim, and hopeless. Pusha T vents about his insecurities about the future and is uncertain of what is going to happen. It's very touching and very striking, with a lot of emotional lines about how he doesn't want to outlive his nephews and his nieces. It's very good, it really gets to you, man. Mavis Staples comes in during the chorus to offer some uplifting energy that brings you back. I do feel as though the whispers in the background that constantly say "let me out" are a little bit distracting and a little too persistent. Once you notice them, you can't really focus on anything else. I also noticed that a lot of the tracks on the album end with loud crescendos, almost as if to signal impending doom, and it certainly fits with the themes of the album. This interlude feels like the lead up to a party. First of all, that title. That is sure to turn some heads. What I've noticed is that pretty much every song on this album heavily utilizes the radio megaphone effect on 2D's voice. I know that the previous albums did this too, but certainly not to the extent that this one does. Personally, I consider that a bit of a disappointment, at least for now. I really like when Damons' voice shines through and we hear him clearly, and we don't really get a lot of that on this album. A lot of grainy, radio-y effects over it all, but back to the track at hand. I'm not feeling it. The melody didn't really feel special and somewhat forgettable, and the lyrics were a little repetitive, and ultimately, this song is my least favorite on the album so far. I wish they could have gone more out there, because the title of the song is so absurd, but it feels like it's almost restrained. I really wanted them to go, crazy on this track, something like punk, or white light, or glitter free, something like that. I think the song will most likely grow on me in the future, but for now it's the album's low point for me. Sorry. This song is a huge step up already. The beat is cool, it's groovy, and I like it. I also like 2D's vocals, and the song as a whole feels like 2D's half-hearted, dim-witted attempt at making a love song that isn't on Melancholy Hill. Kelly's vocals are lovely and really complement 2D's singing. After hearing this song, I had to listen to it again, and I have to say, the beat gets even better on a second listen. She's My Caller is great, might just be among my favorites. Another short interlude. I'm wondering, were these interludes really required to be separate tracks? It's gonna be super weird if someone goes through their Gorillaz playlists in the future on shuffle, and they come on. It's hard to say much else about these interludes. They're short and cryptic. When Hallelujah Money came on, I was like, whoa, are we here already? That was super fast. What I will say about this song is that it has really grown on me immensely. I love it. Clementine's vocals are like spoken poetry. They're almost hypnotic. They're beautiful, but still strangely off. They feel like the words of a preacher who is thanking and preparing his followers for the end. It's powerful stuff and really fits with the themes and ideas of the album. Then, when 2D comes on, the song turns harmonic, gospel-like, and melancholic, as 2D questions the future and how things will go from here, but reassures us that no matter what happens, we are still humans. When Clementine returns, he sounds reassuring and comforting, but still avant-garde and slightly suspect. All around, this song is very, very good in my eyes. I love how experimental it is. A poppy, upbeat closer to the album that is short but quite sweet. It is admittedly slightly cheesy, or actually very cheesy, but it's inspirational nonetheless. It's a pretty good closer and seems to want to reunite people in times of need, to make them unite and come together as one. It very much reminds me of how Demon Days closed off, although I much prefer Demon Days' ending compared to this one. We Got the Power is short. Almost too short, I feel, but it does its job quite well and leaves the album on an emotional high point. So, these are my final thoughts after my first listen. What a listen it was. In my head, everything is currently a blur. I have so many thoughts. Every song basically melts together in my head, and it's gonna take a few more listens for me to fully be able to differentiate every single one of them. I noticed that, at least from my understanding, none of the songs used any acoustic drums, which is, in my opinion, pretty disappointing. I personally much prefer acoustic drums as opposed to electronic drums and drum machines, but like I said, it's just my take on it. Just listen to, say, All Alone and tell me the drumming in that song isn't fantastic. The album was, of course, very different to the band's previous work, but that shouldn't be surprising. However, I will say that I feel as though the album shared certain similarities to Plastic Beach with the heavy electronica influences, for example. Thematically, however, the album certainly reminds me of Demon Days, with the political overtones that focus on war and a world of turmoil and uncertainty. I can't wait to hear the tracks that are gonna be on the deluxe edition of the album. What I'm wondering is if the songs that are on there will fit thematically and gel with the rest of the album, or just simply be bonus tracks that didn't really fit anywhere else. That remains to be seen. Alright, so The Apprentice was released hours after I recorded this, so let me just give my thoughts on that one as well.
Yo, new Black King, New York Dream.
The song has a chilled out vibe and definitely feels like it belongs on the album, just as I thought. The rap verse that appears in the middle of the song sounds really cool and I love it. I love the evil laugh in the background as well, that gives the song a slightly ominous feel to it, while still keeping the chill vibe that I mentioned earlier. Fantastic track from first listen, I love it. After my first listen, these are my favorite tracks. Busted in Blue, Saturnz Barz, Let Me Out, Strobelite, and She's My Caller, in that order. My least favorite tracks are Carnival and Sex Murder Party. Tune into my channel a few days after the album gets properly released to see a full, in-depth review of the album. That's coming up in the future. My thoughts and opinions on all of these songs are bound to change by then. Thanks for watching everyone, stay awesome. Goodbye.